We are 20 days away from the start of opening day, start of the season. Very exciting. The Dodgers and the Padres kick off opening day. And BetQL, our social team, had a great idea. They put together a Shohei Ohtani parlay where they gave you 6 different options, and you can decide which you think might be the best bet, best 2 bets, best 3 bets, whatever you like. So I'll ask you which Ohtani bet that you like the most. Ohtani to lead the league in homers at plus 900, lead the league in RBIs 13-1. The Dodgers as a team to have the most homers at plus 500. Ohtani to lead the league in hits at 30-1. Dodgers to win the National League at plus 180, or the Dodgers win total at 103.5, taking either the over or the under. So those are the 6 options. Is there a bet or 2 that sticks out to you?
What was the RBIs? Did you say 13-1 on the RBIs?
Yes, 13-1 on the RBIs, 30-1 on him to lead the league in hits.
I think I like the RBIs. I think I like the RBIs or the win total. I think the win total is definitely doable. I mean, this roster top to bottom is crazy, right? And when we talk about the Dodgers, we're talking about October, right? That's when we shudder. We're like, are they going to be able to do it in October? We don't know all these, top players. Are they going to, fall to pieces when it matters? I think that's the concern with this team. But regular season wins, they should be really good at that. I mean, the players that they have on this team, they should be really good. So I think, to me, it would be the RBIs. I think he's going to have a ton of potential to drive in a lot of runs at 13-1. I like a 13-1 payout. And then if not, it would be the win total. What about you?
I kind of agree with you. Those were the 2 that I were looking at. I don't like him to lead the league in home runs just because, he certainly could do it. He's obviously, hit plenty of home runs these last couple years. I just don't. I like the value better for the RBIs for what you said because he's going to have Mookie and Freddie in front of him. He's going to have guys get on base. And I just feel better about the RBIs than I do the homers. And I like the price better at 13-1. I don't think the Dodgers are going to win the National League this year, so I'm not taking that. And I would agree with you. I'd probably take the over on the wins. Like the Dodgers just win 100-plus games every single year. Their team this year is going to be so good. Walker Buehler's back. They added Yamamoto. Glasnow is going to help them out at parts throughout the season. And, their lineup now has Ohtani, and it's going to be really, really good. So I think it's the same as it always is with the Dodgers. Like the regular season it's never the concern. You don't have to pencil them in. You can Sharpie them in to the NL playoffs every single year. It's just a matter of how far they're going to go. So I'm with you. Those are the 2 bets that I would make if we're looking at the Dodgers and Ohtani, 13-1 for the RBIs, and then the win total over 103.5. Do like that a lot. We also had some news today that Joey Votto is making a comeback, signs a minor league deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. So that could be something to watch as well. Votto wanting to continue playing. The Reds are obviously going with this youth movement there in Cincinnati, and Toronto needs another left-handed bat. So hoping Votto can make an impact for them at some point throughout the season. Trying to figure out who my sleeper team is going to be in the National League this year, right? Because a majority of people are going to pick. That's the thing. But the beauty of baseball, Mark, is we were asking ourselves that question last year, and then the D-backs won it, So that's the beauty of it. It looks like it's going to be the Dodgers, the Braves, and the Phillies. It's tough to make a case for anybody else, but, the D-backs showed us last year that it certainly could happen. There's something that intrigues me about the Giants this season, with Bob Melvin now as their manager. I think that's going to be a good fit for him and for that team. They have some pitchers starting the year on the DL that I think when they come back middle of the year could help them a little bit to go along with Logan Webb. Made some moves in the offseason. They picked up Matt Chapman. They got their center fielder for the future with Lee to help out their lineup. They got an infusion of some young talent coming in. The Giants kind of intrigue me. It's an even year. I talked about this earlier this week on the show. The Giants love their even years, 2024. So the Giants would be the team 25-1 if I had to pick a sleeper. I think that I would take. I don't like any of these teams out of the NL Central. I know the Reds are very trendy right now. I cannot back the Cardinals with that pitching staff. They've tried to solve their problems with some of these veteran arms like Kyle Gibson, and Sonny Gray's a good pitcher. Like, that was a nice pickup. but some of these other guys that they got, like Steven Matz and Gibson, whatever. And Arenado and Goldschmidt are great. But they're going to need some of their other young prospects like Mason Wynn and Jordan Walker. Like those guys are going to have to be really good for him. Maybe it's Arizona again, Mark. Honestly, I think everybody just expects like they came out of nowhere last year. They're going to have a good young team, but like they're not going to do it again. I mean, heck, maybe they're going to be better this year. Certainly on paper they are than they were last year. So maybe Arizona just does it again. But if I had to make a play outside of the big three in the NL, I think I would take a shot with the Giants.
It makes sense, but you don't have to make a play, right? And I'm not pushing back on the concept that, like, hey, there's always a surprise team, but sometimes there's just not. Like I think, this year we're going to roll into March Madness and everybody's going to say, oh, well, this is this year's FAU. Well, maybe there's not an FAU this year in March Madness. Maybe FAU was that special, and maybe what we saw at the Diamondbacks can't be repeated when you have teams at the top with rosters like Philadelphia, Atlanta, and the Dodgers. For them to do it one year is pretty exceptional. For them to do it another year is really exceptional. So is that something that we want to bank on? Do we have to take a long shot here when we know these top three teams are so strong?
We're talking about the NL Central and what an interesting division this could be. Feels like the Reds are a very trendy pick this year. A lot of people like the Reds. Certainly Vegas and the odds makers are big on St. Louis having a bounce back. We'll see what happens with the Cubs and the Brewers this year and the Pirates as well. But when you break down, handicap this NL Central, what team do you like to win it this year?
I love the Chicago Cubs. And I mean, you mentioned the Reds. I think there's a lot of question marks about them. There were last year. Their starting pitching obviously was very up and down. We all love, Graham Ashcraft and Nick Lodolo. They have great pitching prospects and obviously Hunter Green, but they just really never made it happen. And, it's funny that you mentioned him because I just exclaimed in a coffee shop as an NL only owner of Noelvi Marte. Oh my God, I was so upset to see that he was suspended for 80 games. And I actually do think that's going to make a decent impact on this team. He was supposed to be their opening day third baseman. Yes, they have an influx of infielders. They signed Jeimer Candelario, perhaps knowing that maybe this suspension was coming. And Spencer Steer's great. Christian Encarnacion Strand lit the minors on fire last year. And don't forget about Jonathan India, a former Rookie of the Year winner. But I do feel like this is still a very volatile team, and Elly De La Cruz is like one of my favorite players to talk about because everyone acts like this guy is going to be Barry Bonds. And if you read, first of all, I mean, I've just seen him play, right? His hitting dropped off after a hot start and he's got all the talent in the world. But, a buddy of mine who's a Dodgers fan was like, this guy I think is going to have the Yasiel Puig career arc. And I kind of agree. I feel like, there's a lot of excitement, but we're still not really sure how good of a hitter he is. He's got a lot of time to figure it out. But I don't know if you can rely on him to be, Julio Rodriguez this year. And with that, I just think the Reds they're exciting. They have a lot of great young talent, but I don't know if this is a team that I trust to win the division. About the Cardinals, they have Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson in the middle of their rotation, not to mention the ghost of Steven Matz. I feel like Jordan Walker is the only reason why this team is getting so much love from odds makers. And again, it's a lot to put on one guy who got sent down last year. Anyway, I spoke a lot about other teams and not about the team I like, which is the Chicago Cubs. Now that they have Cody Bellinger back, I'm all in on this team. I loved them last year. They did lose Marcus Stroman, which I do feel like is going to be a loss because he pitched really well in that ballpark as a ground ball guy. But they have a lot of just interesting players like Shota Umanga could be good, Jordan Wicks. And if those guys don't work out in the middle of the season, the most exciting reason to bet on the Chicago Cubs is they have so many great young players. Matt Shaw, who they drafted in the first round last year, is one of the best minor league hitters since that time. They put him all the way into Double-A after just 30 pro games. And I do feel like he could come up this year. You could get Cade Horton coming up this year, who's got a little Jacob deGrom in him. They've got plenty of fun pitching prospects and hitting prospects, not to mention Ben Brown, who was Christ incarnate on the mound last year in the minors before he went to AAA and struggled a little bit. But, there's just a lot of guys who I think are going to end up helping this team or could help this team on the 40-man in the minors. And with the magic that they were able to capture last year, getting Cody Bellinger back to MVP form, Dansby Swanson, there was a lot of questions about him going to a bigger park or a different park, a bigger park. And he, didn't hit as many home runs, but he certainly silenced them. He was a steady hitter. Nico Hoerner, I love contact hitters, so I love Nico Hoerner. There's just a lot to love about this team. I think they're well coached. I think it's a good organization. They have good player development. They're going to be a player in the National League Central, and to win the National League pennant, for many years to come. So I think why not take them now in a division with a lot of questions? The Reds, again, a very inconsistent showing for them last year. They're very young. There's a lot of volatility attached to that. I do like the Pirates, like future outcomes, but I don't know necessarily this year's the year for the Pirates. And the Cardinals just have an old and bad rotation. And Sonny Gray is also hurt now. So I don't know. Sonny Gray is hurt. Noelvi Marte is suspended for 80 games. There's just, why not take the Cubs? They're just the most consistent product in the division right now. I like them to win the division.
Let's focus on the awards market. When we look at the awards market, I mean, this is the time of year where you can really get some great numbers out there. Is there anything that jumps out at you in the MLB awards market?
It's weird to say, but because of how big of a fan I am on college baseball, and I've been following a lot of these guys for their college careers, Wyatt Langford at MVP at 500-1 is way too big. And it's crazy to say that a rookie might actually have a shot to win an MVP for the first time since 2001 when Ichiro did it. But if he plays 140 games, I'm not kidding. I think he's going to have a shot to win because I've seen him play his entire college career. And from the first moment I saw him, I knew this kid was going to be special. I'll go as far as saying for the rest of my life, there was nobody in the media that was first to the scene saying Wyatt Langford is the next Mike Trout. I truly believe that. And if you look at Trout's rookie year in 2012, he barely missed winning the MVP because Miguel Cabrera is a top 5 hitter of all time. But I would really look aggressively towards Wyatt Langford. And on the subject of the NL, I would probably say the Cincinnati Reds are a team I would pick to make a deep run, even though they just lost Noelvi Marte for 80 games because of a PED suspension. The Reds had a lot of firepower early in the season last year, but the youth kind of caught up to them as well as the injuries. If they can push through that in a very winnable NL Central, I don't really see anybody that I'm scared of. That includes the Dodgers and the Braves. But if the Reds are just able to get those ceilings from guys like Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo and Ellie De La Cruz, I think they're a very good sleeper team. And guys, they're going to have the number 2 pick in the draft this year. They're going to have their pick of the litter nearly and any guy they want. And if they get a guy like Jack Caglione out of Florida, a guy who can be a first rounder as a pitcher or a hitter, I think it wouldn't be surprising to see one of these guys get called up in a September run should they get there. I'm definitely buying Cincinnati Reds in 2024.